people that taught me real estate were Jerry Norton,
Okay.
Pace Morby, and Ryan Pineda.
Okay.
And they were all YouTube based. Like, I didn't pay anybody to teach me. They didn't know who I was.
That's interesting.
But I just learned it all off
So
YouTube.
when did it start for you?
Well, I don't remember, 3 years ago, whatever that was. 2021 area.
So after COVID?
Yeah.
What were you doing before COVID?
Utility construction. So I was the director of field operations for a utility company.
What made you jump?
I built that company up. The previous 3 years before that, I was the first employee, had 8 years in the space. I kind of made a decision like, hey, I want a part of the company, right?
odd.
Like, I helped you guys build this up. You know, I'm director of field ops, like the processes and everything were kind of created by us three, and you're expecting me to manage these processes now. Yeah. And I don't have a piece like in the game. Like I was making good money, don't get me wrong, but I was like, I want equity. You know, and I'll buy it. Like I'm not asking for you to give it to me. I know it's worth a lot of money. I will save up and buy it. They were just like, it's not going to happen.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, then. I was like, I'll just go start my own company if that's what I have to do. So kind of came where it was kind of a head at one point. Kind of all came together where, you know, there was problems between me and my boss, and he was kind of passive aggressive in his managing style.
Yep.
So there was a bunch of problems he had with me. I didn't find out until that week, literally. He was like, here's the 15 things that you're doing wrong. And I'm like, whoa, like I knew you were upset about this one thing, but I didn't know I was even doing those other 14 wrong.
And you never communicated it?
And we never communicated it before now. Mm-hmm. And we had a parent company as well. So long story short, they had laid me off for a week. I mean, not laid me off, but put me on suspension, unpaid suspension for a week, based on this one thing that happened. Okay. And I was like shot in the heart because I loved that company, right? Like I had started it, built the process up. Now I'm on unpaid suspension for a week. And we had a parent company, so they were investigating. The parent company was like, what's going on? Why is Evan on unpaid suspension? They came in and they were like, after I came back, they're like, this was wrong. There's something broken in the system here. Like, we're going to pay you. We're going to give you a bonus for that week off. Wow. Like they wanted to keep me, but my manager didn't. He wanted me gone for some reason. The funny thing is that company sold out to a different company like a year and a half afterwards.
So they end up selling.
Yeah, like I seen the writing on the wall. Yeah. You know, when we started that company, the values were great. Yeah. The idea of what we were trying to create was great. But like, you know, after a company gets over 8 employees, you can either completely lose that or you can double down on it.
Sure.
And my management lost that. I was doubling down on it, but the people over me were losing it, right? Like, well, this sucks. This is hard, you know? And I was like, as long as we just take care of our employees, like this will all like work out. Like we just got to keep going on this. And it became, and that's kind of one of the reasons I left too, because I was like, they were asking me to do things that were not our value set. Right. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Why are we doing this? Right. And they were like, well, because it's hard, basically. I'm like, life's hard. Like, we can either be the good guys or the bad guys, and I'm not going to be a bad guy. Yeah. You know?
You took the high road. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You got rewarded for it, you know, starting your own thing. That's impressive.
Yeah.
And, you know, the fact that you learn most of what you know by learning from somebody else hands-on and then watching YouTube is pretty impressive too. I tell everybody right now, like, we're in a world of information. We've never had at our fingertips the amount of information we have today. Yeah. You know, the world has got to stop paying for information.
Oh, 100%. I believe that totally. Like, I guess one of my, not my industry right now, but one of the things that I hope to do if I can achieve what I want is to rewrite how college is. Like, college should not be paid for anymore. Like, all the abundant information on YouTube, right? Like, I learned how to do real estate purely from watching YouTube. Yeah. Learned how to do contracts from Jerry Norton. I learned how to do, you know, higher end properties and creative stuff from Pace. Like, it's there and it's at your fingertips. And they also offer courses. Right. Like, you can go pay them and they'll tell you how to do it. But if you can sort through all the data that's available, you know, and just pick up on the 1 or 2 things that they're teaching you in that one video, because really they're not trying to teach you 15 things in that video. They're trying to focus on one point in that one video.
Smart to do.
You know, so if you can refine that yourself, you don't need to pay $30,000 or $8,000 or whatever it is. No. They're giving it to you for free, you know. Yeah.
It's funny because when you go to college, you go to high school, you go to any school, you get there's a name, the title of the person that's helping you is what? What's their title?
Professor.
Yeah, or teacher, right?
Yeah.
So they're a teacher.
Yep.
That's all it is. Teaching is information.
Yep.
Coaching comes from experience. And I've been telling people, like, stop paying coaching pricing for teaching.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
It's a waste of money.
Yep.
Because all it is, you're paying for information.
And it's freely available.
And now it's freely available.
Yep.
Why do we have school? Why do we have teachers? The modern day teacher is a YouTuber.
Yep. Oh, yeah, definitely. And that's why I think, like, if you could literally, you could build college right now.
Yeah.
Everything that's available.
Yeah.
It would make more sense for the teachers.
Yeah.
Because they could upload content, and the better they are, the more people watch, the more AdSense money they get.
Yeah.
Right. You can have another intermediary that's designing the coursework or like the tests and stuff and grading them. Like there can be the steps in this process.
Yeah.
Like, and you can make it all free because it's all paid for by AdSense.
Yeah.
They said the worst person to market to is a college student because they don't have any money. What if they did?
Yeah.
Right? It opens up a whole new industry.
Yeah. I mean, what if you get loans for it
Yeah.
instead of getting loans for college?
Yep.
It could change the way people approach everything. You know, coaching, though, doesn't come from teaching. Coaching comes from experience. And so a coach, if they're great at what they do, they should be able to look at your problems and see patterns.
Yep.
You know, I always tell people wisdom is patterns, being able to see patterns because we've seen them before.
Yep.
And then be able to coach and redirect somebody. You know, if you think some of the greatest coaches in sports of all time,
Yeah.
you know, they didn't just teach them how to play the game.
Yeah.
They called timeout.
Have you had a podcast or sat down with Tim Grover at
I
all?
have not.
That's one I want to get on. I asked him because he's here in Chicago and he's like, I don't have any plans for that right now. I'm like, dang it. But one day we'll get him on.
Yeah.
Because he's, Michael Jordan, like I think LeBron James, like
Yeah.
a couple of, I'm not big into like basketball, but I'm like, if he could coach those people, he
100%.
could, the 1 hour we have in a conversation could be life-changing for me.
We had a player that came to our workshop a couple of years ago, and he was talking about the greatest coaches, and he played for Mike Ditka, and he just talked about how like Mike Ditka in seconds could see something. He's like, "Now I've seen this 1,000 times," and people argue with him like, "I don't know," and he's like, "No, I've seen this 1,000 times. This is what we got to do," and that's coaching. I mean, that's great coaching.
Yeah.
It's when you can see patterns and have experience to overcome those challenges and then direct people in the right direction. But man, I'll tell you, too many people this day and age paying way too much money for information. Yep. And then the world's lacking something right now. The world's lacking implementation. You know?
Yeah.
We have a lot of information and no implementation.
Yeah. Well, it's so easy to get good information and then be like, well, that was nice. Right. Let me go watch some funny videos on TikTok at the exact same time.
Not doing anything about it.
And not doing anything, right?
Yeah. And so that's my biggest challenge right now working with entrepreneurs is getting them to implement.
Yep. What's the pattern that you see right now that most entrepreneurs are making other than spending money on information?
I mean, that's definitely a big pattern. The other thing I see right now is they're holding on to what they had versus where they need to be. You know, too many people have the whole mindset of like, great book came out in 2000 called Who Moved My Cheese. I don't know if you ever read a book. Actually, I have it on the counter over there, but it's called Who Moved My Cheese. Really quick book. And if you go to YouTube, you can watch a video called Who Moved My Cheese, and it's a cartoon about Sniff and Scurry and Him and Haw.
Okay.
And they're in this like maze, and then part of the maze is this station C, which is the cheese station, right? And Him and Haw and Sniff and Scurry, every day they go to their station and they get their cheese. But one day they walk in the station, guess what's not there anymore?
Cheese.
Yeah. And Sniff and Scurry are like, we ain't sticking around here. We're gonna go find cheese. And they just scurry off as fast as possible to go find new cheese. Where Him and Haw are like, I don't know. Like, maybe it'll be back tomorrow. And they leave. They come back the next day and guess what's not there? Cheese isn't. So Him and Haw stick around a little longer. Well, somebody's got to bring it back. They leave, come back again, walk back in, still no cheese. Now, Haw is starting to get like a little anxious. He's like, hey, maybe we should go where the Sniff and Scurries went.
Yep.
He's like, man, I'm staying right here. Like, they need to bring me my cheese back. And he's getting really frustrated. He's like, I'm tired of this. And I don't know who stole our cheese, but they need to bring it back. To the point where they start to become malnutritioned
Yep.
because they're not eating cheese. So Hall decides, I'm going to go venture out in the maze. And along the maze, he starts to write down on the walls like stuff he's learning. Right?
Yep.
And he wrote down, smell the cheese daily because the kid get old, check on your cheese, all these different sayings and things like that. And sure enough, he finds Sniff and Scurry and they're in this mountain of cheese. And he's so excited because he found new cheese. He goes running back to him and him is still sitting there. And he's like, I'm not leaving. Go get the cheese and bring it here. He's like, bro, you're not going to make it. You need to come and get this cheese. And he finally gets him to go. He has to pull him along. We were talking earlier about, some people in the industry and how guys were struggling.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to go grab those guys by the arm and bro, you got to go.
Yep.
You got to go with me.
Yep.
And right now we got too many people that are wanting to stay in Station C.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah,
they're wanting to sit right there. They're angry about change.
Yep.
They're angry about loss. They're angry about something that they felt like they were entitled to.
Yep.
Now it's gone. And they're not willing to go sniff and scurry out to find a new thing. They're like, no, I built what I built.
So who's the winner in that scenario, though, to capitalize on that, the new mountain of cheese?
I mean, I think it's people that are out there venturing out to find new things. I think it's sniff and scurry.
Do you think so, or is it the guy that waited and then built a plan on how to find the cheese?
Well, I mean, so Hall, who took off afterwards, he didn't build the plan.
Okay.
He just started learning from his lessons of what he should have done earlier.
Okay, gotcha.
And so everything he wrote on the wall was the lessons he learned from not jumping out and going out, like Sniff and Scurry did.
Yep.
And so he wrote around on the walls, this is what I should have done.
Yep.
So definitely a lesson learned. I think both him and Hall probably learned the best lesson.
Yep.
But who's to say that Sniff and Scurry didn't learn it some other time before?
Yeah, that's true too. I'm just thinking sometimes the most haste decision isn't the best one.
No, I don't
Right?
think
Like Sniff and Scurry are like, oh, the cheese not here. I'm just gonna go find it. Luckily they found it.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they could have gotten amazed and died. For sure.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, there's Sniff and Scurry. Stupid.
I was like, let's give it a day. Maybe it'll come back.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, right? I think at some point here you've got to have balance. You got to know when it's time to change and then when it's time to not change.
Yep.
And our metrics give us that. Our metrics tell us when it's time to change.
Yep.
I mean, you get up in the morning, take a shower, you step on the scale, and you're like, dude, I can't stay at this.
Yep.
Right? Like, I know when I got on the scale and it said 320, I was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, you've lost a lot of weight in the last 6 years.
I lost 2.
Yeah. Last 2. Okay.
Yeah, I lost 120 pounds in the last 2 years.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. But man, it was a moment. I had to wake up and go,
This ain't gonna work.
no, my metrics are not well.
Yep.
And you go get, you do the scary part is you go get your blood work done.
Yep.
And it's like, oh crap, I'm not healthy either.
Everything's falling apart.
Yeah.
Now I got more metrics that prove that this is not working for me.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about the guy who shook a Christmas tree and everything fell off.
Yeah.
That happens. And I think that's the moment. And I think that's what's really important is understand is there's definitely a time and place that you have to evaluate to whether or not I go chasing after something else or exploring a new opportunity.
Yep.
But then there's also guys that don't ever want to leave that moment.
Yep. I think there's a fine balance because working in business, especially at a larger company, when you want to change, like right now where I'm at, if I want to change and do something else, easy. Yeah. But when you have 42 employees, and you want to change something that afternoon, you create ripples that if it's the right decision, great.
Yeah.
It's the best time to make that decision, but you don't know if it's the right decision making that decision. So if you change it and it sends ripples through your organization, if that's wrong, you just screwed up 2 weeks of production. Yeah. Because you changed something too fast. So you got to investigate a little bit, but I guess it really depends on where you're at too. I see people like Ryan Pineda, he's like changed in an afternoon. Yeah. And I'm like, bro, you need to slow down. I know that worked for you. And I know I'm to you, I don't have a whole lot of experience, but I've seen big companies fail because of that.
Oh yeah. But
I was like, just take a second, take an afternoon to think about this fully. And not that he isn't, I truly believe that he's probably been thinking about it for last week before he does that to everybody else. It looks like he's just changing something. Yeah. But he's probably...
I've been around Ryan for the last 3 years, since 2020. So it's been 4 years now. I started coaching him in January of 2020. And I'd say Ryan is very disciplined. He's a very disciplined human being in every aspect. You don't get to where he is, the level he's been at with sports, the level he's been at, physically, the level he's been at in business without levels of discipline.
Oh, for sure.
And so there's definitely a fight with discipline of not wanting to change too fast, but then also not wanting to wait too long to change.
Yep.
And I think that's where success lies.
Yep.
Not changing too fast, but not taking too long to change.
Yep.
Like, and it's not a science, So a lot of times it's a feeling.
Yeah, it's a guess.
And so, like, you got to be now. When you get really good at it, is when you have wisdom, or you have somebody who has wisdom. Because what you just said, you just said, I have wisdom. Why do I have? Because I can see patterns.
Yep.
Right. You see the difference? That's coaching.
Yep.
Versus teaching.
Yep.
Because I can say, I don't know, brother. I've been here before.
Yeah.
I've seen this.
Well, that's what I think now. Like, just, and like you say, patterns. Like, I've worked at small companies, I've worked at big companies, and people are like, I hear a lot of people like, oh, I want to have a 50-person company. And I'm like, no, you don't. You don't. It's a lot easier to fail when you have a 50-person company.
Sure is.
And it fails fast because if one thing goes wrong, the cheese leaves, like you said.
Yeah.
Well, cheese leaves, and you're not able to pivot really fast. Yeah. You got 50 people you got to take care of.
Yeah.
Right.
You got to shrink back down really quick.
Yep.
Sharper's at a level right now where we don't pivot quick. And that's a challenge because you got to understand, as you grow a company, it's almost, I think of it this way, right? I think of it like you drive down the highway and see a semi truck, and the semi truck has a trailer. Where there's sometimes that trailer has another trailer attached and another trailer attached, and sometimes there's 4.
Yep.
You have 4 trailers attached. That truck isn't turning very quickly.
Yep.
And it ain't stopping fast at all, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen them before I've seen these truck drivers, literally run in the back of people. And I was going down to Indianapolis one time and driving down 65, and it was a triple. And this guy, this lady cut him off, and then she slams her brakes, and he just went. Yep. I saw him in the truck, throw his hands up. Because he's like, ain't nothing I can do. Yep. I can't stop this thing. If I do, I'm going to jackknife. Yep. I'm going to kill a lot of people.
Yep.
So he just went right through her.
Yep.
Pushed her right out of the way. But I saw his hands go up. He's like, I don't know what to do. Like, you just created a really bad situation for us.
Yeah. I grew up like driving semi in the fields, right? Okay. From age of 9, I was getting off the seat, putting the clutch in.
Wow, let's go.
Putting in granny gear,
I couldn't getting back on. Yeah. You're lucky with your eye, bro, because I was like 14.
Well, I wasn't big. Like I was at 9 years old. I was getting off the seat to push the pedal in, right?
Okay.
Putting it in gear and then standing back up and getting on the seat and driving down the field. But
Evan, that's funny.
I've driven trucks throughout my years. Like I actually don't have a CDL anymore because I let it go with the business. But like when I'm in traffic and I see people cut trucks off, and I'm like, oh, you're stupid.
You're so dumb.
You're so dumb. Like, and it's a knowledge perspective. Yeah. They don't have the knowledge. They haven't seen the patterns. Like, I haven't been sitting in that truck and seeing the patterns of people cutting them off.
Yeah.
I think it's so funny when you drive through town. Not funny, but like I see the pattern of truck drivers that drive through town. They leave like 4 car distances in front of them. They need to, number one, but then you get in tight situations in town or traffic jams, and people are like, oh, there's space. Oh, there's space. Oh, there's space. Well, it makes that truck go slower because he's got to leave 4 more positions in, and everybody's just pulling into that spot, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, guys, the traffic would be moving if you guys weren't always cutting off all these trucks trying to get through town. Like, give them the room, Yeah. But I was going to ask you this question. Okay. Entrepreneurs and business people or business owners, is there a difference?
Entrepreneurs and business owners?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Big difference. But entrepreneurs are people that rely heavily on their talents and their skills to get things done.
Mm-hmm.
Business owners own a system, and the system includes people and processes and things like that. And systems allow talent to shine rather than requiring the talent to overcome the lack of a system.
Awesome. Yeah.
Right? So an entrepreneur has to overcome the lack of a system, and usually talented enough to do that. But owning a business gives them a system that allows them to overcome, the lack thereof, and allows them to shine in what they do. I think the best analogy, if you like sports, because you referenced the Chicago sports teams earlier, was Chicago Bulls in '85. Michael Jordan had like 60-some points a game. I mean, highest scoring rookie, unbelievable talent. And they lost. They never won. And then they brought in, the triangle offense, and Tex Winters, and he came in and he implemented a system, and that system allowed Michael Jordan's talent to shine.
Yep.
But he didn't score as many points.
They just have the talent with no process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the guy who used to won the Olympics, the guy who ran, I can't think of his name now. Anyway, he, the story goes on to talk about how somebody stole his cleats. They stole his cleats, and when they stole his cleats, he was getting ready to race, and he had to go find cleats. And he looks in the trash and found two different cleats. And they were two different sizes. And they had two different types of spikes. And man, he put those cleats on, and he still won. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times that's entrepreneurs, man.
Yep.
We don't have the right cleats. We can still win.
Yep.
But it's harder.
Yeah.
And so we end up not growing. We end up not getting as big as we could. We end up not fulfilling purpose, and we're not achieving what we set out to do in the first place, which was not own a job.
Yep.
And so business ownership, that system allows them to pivot from entrepreneurship to that ownership.
Yep.
And that's the biggest difference.
Yep. I hear a lot of people saying, and why reason I asked the question, they're like, even business owners would be like, well, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
You've stopped creating a long time ago.
Yeah.
Now you're just replicating. And I hear people like that aren't entrepreneurs, maybe employees are like, I want to become an entrepreneur. I'm like, no, you don't. You want to become a business owner. It's fun to be an entrepreneur, but it also sucks.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's not fun a lot of the
says
time.
it's fun to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not sure I'm on that track.
Yeah. Not many. I mean, not many people that have done it, right?
Yeah. I don't enjoy it, to be honest with you.
I do enjoy creating. Like I love to create. Ever since I've been young, I've been an artist. Instead of being a shop class, I could either choose shop class or art class.
Okay.
I chose 4 years of art class because I love creating. Also has unlocked things throughout my employment in a utility company to now where I'm opening and doing my business and starting to open my business. And why I say open my business is because I'm very much in an entrepreneur stage of my life.
Gotcha.
In my business.
Yeah.
Like I do not have the processes. I do not have the duplication processes that I'm like ready there. I'm creating them, like actively creating them. But like to me, the difference is I'm still in the figuring it out stage.
Sure.
And which is an important stage you have to go through.
Sure you do.
Because if you don't have it figured out, like I hear a lot of people when they first get into business, like I don't want to have to like be at work. Like I want to be able to be on vacation.
Yeah.
It's like there's ways you can do that. There's types of businesses that you can do that in, pretty low, like higher margin of failure, like, in those types of businesses. But if you can get in for like a solid 5 years and figure it out, figure out all your processes, then you can get to that point.
Sure.
And I see that a lot with people who are like trying to jump past the entrepreneur stage too fast.
Yeah.
Because it does suck, but that's where I'm at right now. So I guess a question for you is like, I know you don't know a whole lot about business and feel free to ask me questions too, but with that stage where I got one employee, well, actually I got 2 employees. One's leaving. He was a temporary employee. I had him for 10 weeks. Okay. Diamond in the rough. Like the guy was, the plan was, one of my people that bought one of my properties, he wanted to hire him, but he couldn't hire him because of insurance, due to the length of time he had a CDL, this employee. So he's like, I want to hire him in 10 weeks, but I can't right now. And I was like, dude, I'll hire him for 10 weeks and you can have him. I have a lot of work to do. So this week, actually Friday is the 10th week. Okay. So he's going to work for him, but I'm like, man, diamond in the rough, and they're family too. So I can't really get in there. Right. I wouldn't want to with a previous client, but yeah, that's like, he's a 21-year-old kid. Maybe he's 22 now, but he's like operator, laborer, mechanic, like everything that you'd ever want in like the work that I do on
that's great
developing. But that's where I'm at right now is the developing those plans. And with him, I really haven't had to do much because I'm like, hey, here's the list of trees that need to be cut down. If something breaks, call me. He doesn't even call me, just fixes it.
That's great.
He was homeschooled, like, which is super great. But now I'm still like creating processes. So like what would be the first thing you tell me to do? Like
based on this kid that you just said is a rock star, you need a predictive index testing before he leaves. So we know what to look for again.
Okay.
That's first thing. Like if you ever have a rock star, make sure you understand what behavioral traits they have.
Yep.
So we know what to look for in the next person.
Gotcha.
So definitely want to do that before he leaves, because then we want to be able to hire and find those people, because it tells me multiple things. One, it tells me that, you know, the behavioral traits he has, you worked well with.
Yep.
So that usually is a good barometer of what you need.
Yep.
People make the mistake way too often of hiring people in the industry that somebody else tells them work for them. And we don't want to hire people. Two things you don't want to do is you don't want to hire people based on whatever works for everybody else. You want to hire people based on what works for you. So like people got to stop being lazy and figure out what works for them. That's why the entrepreneur stage is important. Kind of figure that part out. And then the second thing is we don't hire for positions. We hire for process. Especially as an entrepreneur. We always talk about the 0 to 1. Nobody talks enough about how do I go from 0 to 1. Like how do I get from here to there, right? Everybody was talking about, well, you know, I've got 40,000 followers on YouTube and I've got 1.2 million on on Instagram and TikTok and all that. But it's like, how do you go from 0 to 1? Right?
Yeah.
Like that's where the magic is.
Yep.
And that's implementation. So when you're where you are, you have probably, you said you were wholesaling a little bit, doing some land splits and things like that. So being in the industry as long as I have, I understand it to some degree. But here's the thing. Like you have probably somewhere between 40 and 50 seats in your business right now, even though you only have 3 employees.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I say seats, those are seats that have anywhere from like 1 to 3 processes.
Yep.
That they're responsible for. Sometimes you run that seat or you live in that seat for an hour a week. Sometimes it's 5 minutes a week, sometimes 30 minutes a week.
Yep.
So each one of those, usually in a smaller business, sales and marketing are heavier areas of where we're working in process more. And then like finance, a little bit, 3 or 4 minutes, a week or maybe a day there. Operations, maybe 10 hours a week here, that kind of thing. But that's usually not a lot, right?
I think probably for my business, operations is a lot higher.
Okay.
But yeah, I get where you're going.
Yeah, because you create more of a product.
Yep.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So, but even still, I mean, as you're starting, like you have to drive profits. So that's usually where a majority of people's time spent. And then it's a little heavier and then a little less as it gets across the, what we call the side pocket into cash.
Yep.
And so we want to identify first and foremost, like how many processes you have and which ones you set in. And I don't mean document them, literally just bulletize the name. Like it'd be that simple. It's like acquisitions process, vetting the lead process, what are all these different steps in the company that we have to do, or process we have to do, and then decide, am I the right person to do those processes? Do I enjoy them? Do they give me energy? Have you done a Working Genius?
No.
You should do a Working Genius. Patrick Lencioni's assessment. It's a book he just released a couple of years ago called Working Genius.
Okay.
And you talked about creativity and creative and things like that. And there's 2 working geniuses that would talk to that: the wonder and invention.
Okay.
And that's where the Working Genius spells out the word widget.
Okay.
WIDGET. And so working and invention is the beginnings of how we solve problems, how we build a company.
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody has the working genius, like it actually comes from Ephesians 4. Patrick said it came from Ephesians 4, where God said, we have gifts. He's not taken those gifts out of Ephesians 4 and applied them to business. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So he's like, these are gifts. These are literal gifts from God to you as a human being.
Yeah.
And so like we enjoy, like, get energy from those things. And when we set a process that doesn't support that, then it de-energizes us.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So as an entrepreneur, well, as an entrepreneur, I want to put you in positions and process
Yep.
that energize you, that don't de-energize you.
Yep.
Adam, who's our videographer and my partner in Sharper Studios, we put him in his area of genius. But he'll learn. He's learned the last couple of weeks. I decided for 90 days to step in the seat of COO in our company. Worst mistake ever made. I don't ever work in our businesses. These guys will tell you I'm not in the business.
Yep.
Adam asked me questions like, I don't know, brother. You have to ask somebody who actually works in the company. And the reason why is because it's not my core genius.
Yep.
Right? It's not my working genius, if you will. My working genius is galvanizing. Right? The second is discernment, which is why I think I do well at coaching.
Yeah.
Galvanizing's rally. It's encouraging. It's getting people pumped up, getting them inspired. Discernment is like, is this the right time? It's like,
Yep.
it's the, challenging it. It's using intuition to vet the thought and process. And so where somebody like you that might have wonder and invention, somebody like me with discernment and galvanizing works really well together.
Yep.
In order to drive the company and grow a very successful business.
So what's the last two then?
Yeah, I was hoping that. Last two is then enablement
Okay.
and tenacity.
Okay.
And enablement's the person who goes, hey, I'll jump in and do that with you.
Yep.
Right? Like the first person volunteer.
Yep.
Like, I like this. It's good. I'll do it. And tenacity is the one that honestly a lot of people get a little frustrated with because they're like, devil's advocate. They're like, are you sure? Prove to me that we can do this.
Yeah.
Like, why? Because they want results.
Yeah.
Right? And so when we're solving a problem in a company, we're building an entrepreneurship, you have to understand, like, there's a widget that the things have to move through. And it's from wonder to invention to is it the right time, discernment. Then let's rally the troops, galvanize. Let's get the people that want to jump in and do it with us. And then let's make sure tenacity shows up so this gets to the results we wanted.
Yep.
And I love the way Patrick wrote it, but it's the WID. I feel like those people, if you take those and segregated the word and put them in the room of invention, research, and development, those people are going to love being there. And discernment's going to protect it so when it leaves the room, it's the right thing to leave the room. And once it leaves the room, galvanizing and enablement and tenacity are in the other room. And you walk in, you hand it to the galvanizing guy so you can get everybody rallied around it and get them excited about it.
Yep.
And then enablement's like, all right, I'll do this with you. And then tenacity is like, well, if we're going to do it, let's do it right.
Yep.
And I always say WID invents and GET gets it done.
Nice.
GET gets it done. So like, it's pretty interesting. I love the concept that Patrick's come up with. I was with him 2-3 weeks ago now. Me and Ryan actually flew out and Ryan did a podcast with him, and being Ryan's business coach, Patrick had asked to meet me. So, and I had just written the book, The Rise Business Framework. So we got a chance to hang out with him for a couple hours and then play golf in Oakland. And learned a lot about this book and this concept. And, I talked to him a little bit about it. I'm like, man, it'd be really cool is if you took the processes that we just talked about with you, if you took those processes and I was able to run them through your working genius to see which ones of those would galvanize you or which ones would energize you and which ones would de-energize you. If we can figure that out, man, I think that's going to be a really big game changer for a lot of entrepreneurs. But where you are right now is understanding what processes you have. I'm not asking you to document them yet, but then we got to figure out which ones you should be in and which ones you shouldn't be in. And then we need to find somebody else, start hiring people based on the processes that you shouldn't be in. Yep. They get energy from.
Yep.
Right?
Well, that's one of the things why, like with Mike, I almost hated to hire him because one of the things I love to do is sitting in machinery.
Oh, I see.
And like, I get to create when I'm on machinery, right? Like I could create a new path or a new road or something.
Yeah.
But I also knew that I didn't have the time and I needed to build my company, right? So I have 200 credit hours I have to perform on. That's 200 hours of me sitting in that machine or hiring Mike to do it, right? So hiring Mike was the easiest path, like the most logical path, right? And obviously, I can't be sitting in the machinery all the time either. Like, it's not realistic, right?
Right. Well, while you're growing.
Yeah, while I'm growing.
I always tell people there are things in a company that we all enjoy and love to do. And I love to coach.
Yep.
Just one thing I still do of everything, of all my companies, the one thing I still do is I still coach. But I do it because I want to, not because I have to. I want you back on the machine, man.
Yeah.
But I just want you there because you want to be there, not because you have to be there.
Exactly.
So we got to build the company to where you're doing it because you want to. Ryan was the same way. It's like, he's like, I want to do videos. I want to do this. I want to do that. I love like building funnels. And I'm like, yeah, do it because you want to.
Well, that's what Ryan's like, you got to, I was talking to him one day and he's like, what are you doing today? And we've been looking at some different land because he wants to do some plans. Anyways, he's like, what are you doing today? I'm like, well, I got 8 hours in the cat. And he's like, dude, you can get off the cat. And I'm like, well, I do. I recognize that I do need to get up, but I love being in the cat too. So you're going to have to wait, you know?
Yeah, I get it.
But yeah.
But when the business can afford you not to be there, that's when you're hitting levels of success. And when you walk out that cat and you're like, I'm just going to go create a new road because I want to create a new road.
Yep.
Then that's a really healthy place to be. People think, and this is one of the things I see entrepreneurs struggle with, is as I coach them and they get to scale, they have this identity crisis that starts to kick in. They're like, but what do I do? Like, they don't need me anymore. You're building a company that's no longer going to need me. And the truth is, you're right. But that's what we want. But then I'm not asking you not to do anything in the company.
Yep.
I just don't need you to be there. I just want you there because you want to be there. And that's freedom, man. Freedom is doing things, having the power of choice.
Yep. Well, that's one thing in my vision when I first got into entrepreneurship, or when I first not got into it, but when I made the decision to leave the job and go do this full time.
Yeah.
I decided that freedom was the most important thing to me.
Okay.
Like, if I don't have freedom, then there's no reason for me doing this in the first place, because I have, freedom at this company. I work probably 68 hours a week, but I have freedom after that. If I don't answer my phone, it's still going to get done. Yeah. I know getting into this company, that if I don't answer my phone, it's not going to get done. Yeah. Right? I'm the only one. So that's always been very important to me, to the point where if I can't take a nap at 2 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon, then I do not have freedom. Yeah, sure. Right? So people are like, what does success mean to you? I'm like, well, my success is taking a nap at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. And they're like, that's your definition of success? And I'm like, well, that's freedom, isn't it? Yeah. So that's why I'm always like cautious to take on too much too. And it's funny, the people that are around me that know me really well and know this about me, they're like, hey, what are you doing right now? And I'm like, well, I got this new thing I'm starting, and I got it all planned out. And they're like, but is that going to allow you to take a nap on a Tuesday at 2 p.m.? And I'm like, well, I mean, I can withgo a nap for a while. And they're like, is that really what you want? Yeah. Because they know, and I really appreciate those people, because they're like, they know that it'll be successful, or they know it'll be a great step for me, but they also know that that's not really what I want. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs get to that point where the business just becomes overwhelming and they don't actually get what they originally started the business for. Sure. So
I want to challenge you on something. I love the nap, but the only difference between a successful entrepreneur and a homeless guy is?
Taking a nap at 2 o'clock on Tuesday.
Homeless guy can take a nap on Tuesday at 2. Yeah. It's the ability to help other people, right? And so, it's a fine line.
Oh, yeah.
A homeless guy has freedom, but your ability to help other people.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love your analogy of taking the nap. Yeah. But I think what I don't want your audience to miss is the fact that you still choose, because you have the power of choice now to help other people. The homeless person doesn't. Yeah. They don't. They have to help themselves every day. They have to take care of themselves.
And when I say take a nap, I'm also, that's with comfort, right? The homeless guy he's not comfortable. No. And when I say I want to take a nap, that's everything working out, everything's still running right. Yeah. Me being comfortable, me getting such a good sleep in that 30 minutes or 20 minutes I take a nap.
Yeah, we're saying the same
to go back to work.
Yeah, right? I think we're saying the same thing. It's just, for me, it's a power of choice. Yep. That's what freedom is. It's the power to choose. Which is why it irritated me so bad in 2020. When COVID hit, it's like, no, they're taking our choices away from us, right? Yep. And I know that's controversial, but I don't really care, because my dad fought 21 years in the military, and many tours in war to keep our power of choice. Yep. And that's the one thing that bothered me more than anything. It's like, you know what? I get it. We want to protect other people, we want to protect ourselves. Yep. But you start to take choice away. And that's freedom.
Well, that's one reason I think so many people didn't take the vaccine, including me. They were like, hey, you're either going to have your job or take the vaccine. And I'm like, well, you can take my job, but you're not taking my choice away. Right. Right. And
that's what they try to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it was still your choice. You could either have a job or not have a job, but it's still choice. Yeah. Where in some countries, that wasn't a choice. Yep. They rallied you up, pulled you together, and gave it to you anyway. Yep. And so that's important to me so much when we talk about freedom. We talk about the power of choice, because that's essentially what you're doing. You're like, you know what? It's Tuesday. It's 2 o'clock. I got a really comfortable bed. I'm going to go lay in right now. And you have the choice to do that.
Yeah. I think I was going to COVID. I don't know why probably talk about COVID too much, because probably won't air this to anybody. But that was the stupidest thing they did with all that was take away people's choice.
Yeah, or try.
Yeah, or try. If they would have just been like, hey, we got this really good drug that will not, will make this COVID thing go away, whether it did or didn't, whatever you believe on that. Yeah. But if we have this, if you want it, come get it for free. Right? Everybody would have taken it.
Yeah.
But the moment they said, hey, you have to,
Mandating this. Yeah.
they're like, okay, wait, hold on a second. You're gonna tell me I have to?
Yeah.
Then you're gonna force my employer, and you're not gonna give them grants and stuff?
Yeah.
Like, something's wrong here.
Yeah. There's just something seriously wrong.
So
I think as time goes on, we'll that'll be more and more exposed to what was actually wrong. But there was something seriously wrong that I don't think we understand the extent of yet. But
yeah.
it's gonna be an interesting time.
Well, I kind of think it was kind of an experiment the whole time. Like, how much control can we get over these people, and how much will they let us take? Like, I'm not saying COVID was fake. I'm like, I believe,
obviously it wasn't.
I believe that there was a real disease going around. I don't know why it was there. Maybe it was COVID, whatever happened. The bigger point of it all is they wanted to see whoever it was, they being, I don't know who it is, but they wanted to see how much control can we take from these people.
Sure.
And there might not be any disillusion with the disease. I mean, maybe they just did it to see if that's what could happen.
Yeah.
We could go for hours on that. I feel like getting into conspiracy theories.
Yeah. We could do a whole podcast on some conspiracy things.
I always question everything, when I look at it, and not intentionally question it to see if it's wrong, but just like checking it against the facts.
Intentional. Be intentional about it. Question everything.
Yep.
Hey, listen, there's not a thing in this world that shouldn't be questioned at some point.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a person in this world that shouldn't be questionable. It's accountability. Like when you get questioned, it's accountability.
Yep.
If you don't like it, then give good answers.
Yep.
And if you can't give good answers, then you should be questioned.
Yeah. Oh, why are you hiding something now?
Yeah. So, I don't really have a problem with questions. I think questions are healthy. I think they create accountability and they create honesty and create health. I mean, health in a lot of different areas. So I think it's a good question.
So here's a question you maybe not been asked before.
Okay.
Going back to, you got 10 businesses now.
A little bit more, but yeah.
Okay, you got more than 10 businesses now. Let's go all the way back to when you had your first business.
Yep.
And you were maybe transitioning between the entrepreneur stage like I'm at into that business ownership and duplicating. What problems did you run into back then? Because you weren't always Gary Harper.
Yeah. Communication.
Okay.
It's the same problem I have with guys I'm coaching now. Like we talked about that Mack truck turning, right? And so a lot of times we don't communicate properly. It's when we hit that third person in the organization.
Yep.
Complexity grows to 200% communication.
Yep.
Hit the fourth person, it's 500%. So there's so many lines of communication trying to keep everybody informed of what's going on. It's by far the hardest thing. It's honestly for me over the years is that moment in any business. It's easy to run a company. It's here. It's harder to run them when it's 1 to 3 because you're so used to just making decisions and pivoting and changing. And then you start pissing people off and they see value. They don't feel valued and they don't feel like their opinion matters. And it's like, you're just running me over. And now I'm just an employee. And why'd you hire me? I thought you respected me. I thought you wanted my opinion on things. I thought you wanted me to do that. Why? I thought you wanted me to run this business. I thought you wanted me to lead this company. I thought you wanted me to do that process. And now you're stepping in.
Yep. And you're not even talking to me anymore. You got somebody between us.
Yeah. And now you got somebody else telling me what to do. And then you're doing something contrary to what you're
Yeah.
It's just, as entrepreneurs, we feel comfortable there. And so we have to break that unconscious programming that we have of like, I have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And to some degree, we found some sense in enjoying doing it.
Yeah.
So like that letting go, by hardest thing.
Oh yeah, and that's what even with like Mike in the last 10 weeks of him working for me, there's been moments where I've been like, man, I should tell him to do that differently.
Yeah.
That would be faster if he did it differently. But at the exact same time, I have enough experience to managing people where I'm like, if I control him, he'll be a worse employee.
Yep.
Right? He's got to be creative a little bit because I see a lot of my prior self in him.
Sure.
And I always hated it when they would step in and be like, hey, do this differently. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm testing right now. Mm-hmm. If you give me a minute, like, I'll know if it works or not. Just let me test this for a second, right? Because it might be something completely game-changing that you didn't see.
Yeah, well, you still have to R&D.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's where I had to, like, a lot of times I just step back. And thankfully I did because now, like, yeah, well, it broke. Well, you fixed it.
Yeah.
Who cares? It was a $10 part. Like...
Fell
whatever.
Forward.
Go ahead.
You wouldn't have thought about it 1 ounce if you'd done it and you broke it yourself.
Exactly.
So it's like, and we allow ourselves that grace. We allow ourselves the grace of failing forward. We don't typically let our employees have that same level of grace.
Yep.
And that's honestly one of the biggest struggles I had and the biggest struggles that I see entrepreneurs have. And then pivoting, like it's, being able to make those changes as fast as possible versus now that it's on a business, can't turn it as fast,
Yep.
And so when you're starting to transition from entrepreneur to business owner, like you still want to pivot and turn fast. And there are people around you like, what are we doing?
Yep.
Like I had a guy wanted me to join his mastermind last year and I ended up joining it, but he calls me and he's like, Gary, it's only whatever, $300, $500 a month. He's like, man, you spend more than on food. Like this is going to help people. This is going to help you. And I'm like, but you don't understand, man. Like, he's like, when are you going to make a decision? I'm like, you don't understand. I can't make the decision. He's like, what do you mean you can't make the decision? You're the owner. I said, yeah, but I don't run an entrepreneurship anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I have a business. And he goes, well, you can't make the decisions in your business? I'm like, no. He was like, well, I don't ever want to own a business. I can't make decisions then. I said, then you'll never own a business.
Yep.
He's like, I don't understand. Tell me, what do you mean by that? I was like, I have processes and people that are in place and budgets that are in place.
Yep.
If I just say yes to you right now, I have circumvent 3 layers in my organization, and I'm going to piss a lot of people off. And they're going to want to know why I took from the budget they have to spend money in. Because it's not my budget. It's theirs.
Yep. They got to make the decision.
It's their decision.
Yep.
Because I've empowered them to make those decisions, not me. And he was like, I don't know, man. I feel like as a CEO of a company, you got to be able to make this decision. Well, then maybe one day you should learn to run a business, I don't tell you, but like I went back to my team. I'm like, hey, should we join this mastermind? And he's like, let's think about it. And they evaluated it and they did the cost analysis and how much time. And it's like, it's not $500 a month.
Yep.
It's more like $2,000 a month because we're going to have to take somebody out, put them in the mastermind. We charge a significant amount of money to be with somebody for a day. So we have that loss, and if it's you, like I charge 20 grand, to work with somebody.
Yep.
So it's like, now you're gone at a mastermind where our revenue is not coming in at 20 grand.
Yep.
Plus, not only that, the cost of travel, the cost of food, the cost of hotels, and all those things that come associated with the whole part of being the member.
Yep.
And so and not just the cost, but the opportunity missed and things. It's just a lot that goes into it. And they gave it good perspective. Now, we still joined. The valuation was still good enough. We're still going to go. I'm not the one attending, right? Because it's not a good use of our company's time for me to go, but it is a good use of our time for our marketing person to go. So that person's going to go. And so that's the difference. I think that's for me. And so I'll tell you what I did. I was taught a very valuable lesson in those early years. Okay. It's by a young lady named Melanie. And she came to me and she's like, I'm going to quit. Because she was like, 3 layers, third ploy or whatever. And she said, I'm going to quit. And I said, well, what are you going to quit for? Like, I spent all this time training you. I invested in you. Like, now you're going to leave on me? And she's like, yeah, I am. I'm like, why? I said, let's go to Chili's. Let's have lunch together and talk about this. So we did. We sat there over some chips. And she's like, Gary, I don't feel empowered. Like, I feel like you're a dictator. And entrepreneurs can be dictators. I know that sounds like a harsh word. In the book Multipliers, it calls it an accidental diminisher of people. So choose the word you want to use. Accidental diminisher, dictator. I think they're the same. But at the end of the day, she was right. Because I wasn't empowering her. John Maxwell said, good people that don't feel empowered don't stay.
Yep.
And so I sit down with her, and I think we're all great processes and forms of built, right? I grabbed a napkin, and I drew out this 3 lines, or 2 lines, one at the top. And I wrote down in the first column, things I want you to do and not tell me about. So these are the things you have the empowered to do and never tell me about them. These are the things I want you to do, then tell me how you did it. And then these are the things I never want you to do until we talk about it first. And I went through her processes and what she was hired to do, and I listed things in each one of those columns. Right. And I've actually developed that further now. And over the years, I've added a fourth quadrant. And the 4th quadrant is a budget. Right. And so I did this exercise with her, the 3 quadrants at that time. And I slid it across her. And I'm like, Melanie, what do you think? She's like, I love it. I absolutely love it, Gary. I would feel totally empowered if you were giving me these things and I never had to talk to you about. I just did them.
Yep.
I said, perfect. So we're good? She said, oh, no. I'm still leaving. I already take the other job. I've already got the offer. I'm moving. But she's like, I think you ought to learn a lesson here, and I think you ought to do this with every person you hire going forward.
Yep.
One of my very first employees. And I learned a very valuable lesson of how to let go. And I call it the art of delegation. Right? And so you have to hire people, yes. You have to onboard them, yes. You have to train them, yes. You have to give them a process, you do. You have to give them procedures on how to do it. You have to. But you have to let go. And you have to empower these people to fail forward.
Yep.
And the way we do that is by giving them a list of things that they can do without talking to us, things they should talk to us about after they did it, and things they should never do without talking to us about it first. And any area that I've given them full autonomy in to do it without talking to me, I want to set a budget.
Yep.
I want to set a time budget, and that's the biggest one.
Yep.
Or a money budget.
Yep.
And people set money budgets, but they don't understand that time costs them more money.
Yep.
And if you're used to doing something, Evan, that is an hour a week, and this person coming in takes 5 hours a week to do it, what does it cost you?
5 times.
It costs you 5 times the amount of money.
Yeah.
So don't neglect the time budget
Oh, yeah.
when you delegate to people.
Yep. Well, that's something I did at the utility company, kind of along the same lines of, learning everything you talked about just now, which gave me a strength to go into entrepreneurship, I feel like.
Okay.
Because people in the utility company be like, we hate working for you.
Okay.
And I'm
They
like,
hated working for you?
They hate working for me.
Why was that?
Well, I was a dictator.
Oh.
I mean,
it makes sense.
And
I was too.
I was young. I was dictating everything around, and I had to learn that. And the more I learned that and let autonomy happen in the business was where we started getting better results.
Yeah.
So I learned that pretty, I don't know, I wouldn't say early on, but halfway through my managing experience, I learned that you got to give them a little bit of space, right? And allow them to be more autonomous. And it was kind of funny towards the end of my employee, they'd come in, they'd be like, hey, well, this is how they have to do it exactly. This is how this is how this is how they have to perform this job. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work. And they're like, well, what's wrong with that? And I'm like, well, nothing's wrong with that process, but that ain't going to help. Like everything's going to be moving slower. We're going to lose people. Like, you got to give them a little autonomy around the way. And they're like, no. And I'm like, here's the writing on the wall right here. Like,
This company don't feel empowered, don't say.
Yep, exactly. And we had a great team when we first started, and we slowly trickled, and they slowly lost them. And trying to manage good people is hard. Trying to manage bad people is impossible.
Yeah. It's funny. We get a lot of calls from entrepreneurs, and they talk about their teams, and a lot of people complain about their teams. They complain about the people they have, and they complain about how they're not doing what they say, or they're not hard workers, or this. And I tell people all the time, and this is a harsh statement, so brace yourself for it, but as your people listen to this podcast, if you're leading people, you have the team you deserve. Because
100%.
level A people don't want to work for level B people.
Yep.
If you want to level up your team and your culture, you better level up as a leader, because you have the team you deserve. You have the business you deserve. You have the profits you deserve. If you don't want them, then level yourself.
100% agree.
After I've coached over 4,000 businesses in the last 8 years, I've come to realize that people have the people they deserve. And when they fail to want to grow, get better as leaders, then that's the people they attract.
Yeah, one thing I've seen a lot in business is the breakdown of leaders, right? So you'll have a really good leader at the top, and then they'll be like, hey, this is what we want for you. Sure. This is what we want for our company. And the next person's like, oh, wow, sounds amazing. This is exactly what I want. And they take all that benefit, and then the next step down, they're like doing something completely different. And it's like, why don't you just duplicate what you've been receiving? Like, if that's what you want, doesn't the next person want down?
Yeah.
And it, like, every time you go deeper and deeper and deeper, you get worse and worse leaders.
Yeah.
I mean, naturally, leaders rise to the top. Good leaders rise to the top, I should say. Sometimes corrupt leaders rise to the top too, but
corrupt people putting them at the top.
Yeah. But that's just like the one thing I've never understood. Like, even when I was down at the bottom, I'm like, I see all the way up to the top and see these good leaders. Why is the next person not just duplicating that?
Yeah.
Like, and that's, I don't know, like, I still don't know how to figure that one out. Like I mean, maybe you just get rid of those people, or is there a different way to keep them in the business and make them realize, like, are you getting what you want? You are. Great. Why are you doing something different now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's where culture comes in. You know, you have to have a replication of culture all the way down. And so, yeah, you don't keep people around that don't align with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a choice for them. They can choose to either rise to the level you're at and try to get better and try to improve, or they can try to stay right where they are. The problem with that is, as leaders or managers in an organization, if they do, they're going to get passed by. Now, where my worry comes in is when entrepreneurs or business owners don't clean up or lean out those people,
Mm-hmm.
the leaders that are coming in underneath them go somewhere else because they feel stifled.
Yep.
You know, John Maxwell said, good swimmers jump ship. And then you're left with a ship full of people who can't swim. And so that's where we get bad culture. And so culture comes from people alignment. That's values and vision. They have to align with your values and your vision. I call it the double V effect. That comes
Double
from
V effect. I like that.
yeah. It's values and vision. It's like, do they believe in where we're going? And do they believe in what we stand for? That's our values. They have to be in the right seat. Like, you can hurt a culture really bad if you put somebody in the wrong seat.
Yep.
You can have right people, wrong seat, hurt a culture. Because everybody loves right people, wrong seat. They're great people. They just don't make a company money. You also have wrong people, right seat that make a company a lot of money that kill our culture because they don't align with our values or our vision. They start creating their own. But then you have to have goal alignment. People have to align with the goals of the organization and where we're going, how we're going to get there. And then last, and probably the most important one, is purpose alignment. And I think this is why a lot of, especially today, we have 52% of our workforce now is millennials. And they very much want the emotional paycheck. They don't want just a financial check anymore. They want to feel emotionally fulfilled as well. And so the Great Resignation was a prime example of that over the last 3 years. You were part of it, by the way.
Yeah.
2021 kicked off the Great Resignation. People quit.
Yep.
It's like, I'm going to go do my own thing. You're one of those people. You know why you left?
Because I didn't have emotion. No, I don't know.
Yeah, it was an emotional paycheck.
Okay.
I mean, did you make good money?
Yeah, I made good money.
Yeah, so you were making money. It wasn't about money.
Yep.
You were like, man, I don't feel emotionally fulfilled here.
Yeah, that's probably part of it.
Yeah,
I hate to admit it because I hate to admit that I'm a millennial. But,
hey, listen, I'm not, and I still want an emotional paycheck. I value it. I've learned that lesson from millennials. It's a valuable lesson.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of thing about the millennial generation that people pick on and make fun of and all that, whatever. I honestly don't. I think they've matured very well. And so I think people don't like change. Okay. And the baby boomer generation owned the workforce till 2020, and then it switched. Yep. Like, COVID was a big part of it, but so was just the fact that they hit the workforce. And then, you know, a lot of baby boomers were retiring while they came in. It was just a year that created change. And I think the world has learned a lot from the millennials. My curriculum that I wrote, the Rise Business Framework, is the very first business operating system for millennial leaders.
Interesting. I just started reading it, actually.
Did you?
Yeah, I'm on like page 30 right now. But I stopped.
Two. There's the Rise Business Framework, and there's the Purpose to Rise. One's a fable.
It's a framework.
Okay,
with
so
the
you're actually
quadrants.
reading the framework.
Yeah. Yeah, I started reading it actually last night because I was like, I need to figure out what to ask Gary tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah.
But I started reading it, and then I stopped when I got to your charting of like organization.
Yeah.
And then going through and like charting processes.
Yeah. Process ownership.
Yep. And I'm like, okay, hold on a second. Let me start charting this.
You should.
So
That's
I started charting that and stopped reading at that point. But
good. I love that. I wrote the book in chronological order of how you grow. It's not jumping around. Like, you really can't jump to the next chapter because you have to do the exercise there first.
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. And I've read books like that are like, you're like getting something in part 4 and that, you know, should be in part 1, but I love that. So
scaling up's that way.
Yeah.
Even traction.
Yep.
I mean, they're written in a way that, you know, you have to kind of go look for it. And then some of them, they're missing stuff. You know, one thing in traction is like one of the key, there's 6 key components is process. And it's like, here's a 3-step process documenter. You know, and that's not enough. It's not enough for entrepreneurs.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to get process out of your head. But Susan just did a presentation yesterday at Collective Genius, and she won the belt. You know what her presentation was titled? Why the processes are killing your business. Because she did a story about Amelia Padilla. You ever heard that story before?
I don't think so.
Amelia Padilla is a a kid's children's book. And she was a worker for this couple who hired her to clean the house. So every day, Amelia Padilla would come in to clean the house, and they would leave her a list of what to do. Dust the drapes, dust the furniture, draw the drapes, dress the chicken. You know, there's a list.
Yep.
And they would come home at the end of that day. The very first time they walked in the house, there's dust all over the furniture. The drapes were drawn on a sheet of paper. And the chicken was dressed like a little boy. You know why? Because they gave her a process. They gave her what to do, but they didn't give her how to do it.
Yep.
And that's one of the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make when they have that type of system is they document the what, but not the how. And so they get a bunch of Amelia Padillas in their business, and they're like, well, bro, or here's worse. When you were doing it as an entrepreneur, you knew what to do and how to do it. So then you delegate, and all you're delegating is the what, which is the process.
Yep.
And guess what you become? You become the how person. And you're going to be busier than you've ever been in your entrepreneurship life because you're going to get 40 phone calls that day.
Yep.
Because now you just hired like
I've been there.
5 people and they're all calling you to go, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I...
Yeah.
Killing your business.
Yeah.
And then you go, what am I doing this for? I'm busier now than I've ever been. I can't take the nap on Tuesday afternoon anymore because my phone keeps ringing. And I want to hire all these people if I got to go then show them how to do it. That's where the procedure comes in. So process, procedures, policies. Process, what we do. Procedures, how we do it. Policies, when we do it. And those are very important. So it's very important that you follow the chronological order of Rise because it's built that way.
Okay.
And you have to earn the right to quadrant 4. Quadrant 4 is engagement. That's where we expand with brand. You know, it's funny. I see this a lot actually going to Ryan's event because Ryan is so big on social. He's earned the right to be there.
Yeah.
That's the part people miss, by the way. I don't think people understand that. Ryan earned the right to be on social.
So he did 500 flips before he got on social.
Yeah, I mean, more than that, though, he built his company before he did.
Yep.
Right? Like he got out of the seats that he shouldn't have been in. He empowered people the right way. He got good leaders, got good managers, got good employees, and he trained them on the process, procedures, and policies, and then he let go the right way. And he earned the right to be on the camera because that's where he spends most of his time.
Yeah.
So, like, people don't understand that. And that it's not like Ryan jumped on the camera in January 2020. It wasn't until like at the end of 2021, you know, that he started to really take off on social. Why? Because he took a year to do what he was supposed to do. And so I think it was important to understand that because when companies start, they start for 3 reasons: a product, a passion, and a profit. It's the 3 Ps. Every company started because you have a passion for something, and you have a product that helps you with that passion, and you make profits with it. And then they ask questions: is it scalable and is it profitable? And if they are, and if it's definitely scalable, what they want to do is they want to jump straight to engagement. They want to go straight to expansion. They want to go straight to hitting the social media. They want to go straight to like trying to get as many stores as they can open. And then we hear the statement: they grew too fast. That's not a thing.
So let me ask you this question. Am I starting my podcast too early?
I don't think you're starting. So
what I just heard there was like
a good question.
What I just heard there is you're jumping to the last step.
It's the intentionality of why you're going there, right? Like you're creating a podcast for what reason?
So I can learn from
That's
people.
different.
Yep.
That's different. Like if you're creating a podcast to sell education, then you're moving too fast.
Yeah. No.
If you're creating a podcast to learn, then no. I mean, how's this any different than reading a book?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I hate reading books too.
Well, and that's a good. I mean,
this makes a lot of sense.
How does this? I mean, honestly, for your audience, like I recommend everybody starting a podcast when they first get started in business.
Yeah.
Now, creating an education platform, trying to scale too fast, trying to add multiple locations, trying to do 500 deals your first year, stupid.
Yep.
Right? Why? Because you're going to engagement quickly, and you didn't build systems, you didn't inspire, you didn't create goals, vision, culture, and you didn't hire the right resources. So that's why I wrote Rise. Rise is the bridge from stage to stage of the 5 stages of business.
Yep.
Right? Harvard Business Review said we go through 5 stages of growth. Stage 5 is succession, which is maturity. That's where we reach our purpose.
Okay.
How we get there is a logical path from stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, stage 5. How we get out of stage 1 to stage 2 is resources.
Yep.
Time, money, people. Where are you spending your time right now? What money do you need? How much do you need to make? How much do you need to spend? And then last is, what people do I need? to make this successful. Once you have that dialed in and you've identified time, money, people, that's why you start a company, you build a business performer, right? That's why you build a process ownership chart. As you go through resources in the RISE business framework, you're going to first start with what processes do I have? And you're going to build out the RISE business or your process ownership chart. Then you're going to determine what seats should I sit in based on the heart, the head, the hands, and the feet. That's the very next chapter in that book. From that, you're going to say, what heart, head, hands, and feet do I need for these seats? It's a rhyme. Heart, head, hands, feet tell you if you're in the right seat. That's why I wrote it that way.
There's so many things. There's like 3 and 5 things of everything.
It's 4.
Okay.
4 and everything. If you look at RISE built written around the quadrants of 4, right? Everything's like a 4 philosophy.
We got the 2 V's, we got the 3 P's.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. No, that's the way my brain works. But that's what we want to do. We want to start with that process ownership chart, and then we want to determine what seats you're in, what seats you shouldn't be in, what seats other people should step in right now. Then we go down into like, how do we hire those people, bring them on board? And then the last part of resources is when should we hire? And so that's when we build out a business pro forma for you, work with you, or you create it, and you project out month by month your revenue and your expense and your profits. So we can determine based on your projected growth when you should hire. Biggest mistake I see make a lot of with other business frameworks is they tell you very clearly what seats you shouldn't be in. Even traction, get it, want it, capacity. It's a good system. You know, they tell you what seats you should and shouldn't be in. You know what they don't tell you?
What seat you should be in?
Well, they don't tell you when you should get out of that seat.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They don't tell you when you can afford to get out of that seat. There's nothing on finance.
Yep.
That's a dangerous place for an entrepreneur not to have their hands around finance.
Yep.
And I'm not talking about it needs to be a financial system. You just need to have projections. You know, you buy wholesale houses, right?
I used to, not anymore.
Okay.
Yep.
But you're buying land.
Yep.
Do you evaluate it before you buy it?
Oh, yeah.
So you look at what it's going to cost you to buy it. You look at what it's going to be worth at the end, right? And then you look at that and say how much money I can make.
Yep.
That's a pro forma.
Yep.
Your business has to have a pro forma. People create a 1-year plan and vision and all that, and they don't have a pro forma that matches it. It's dangerous because there is no accountability, and that's just a dream at that point, right? And that's where we frustrate our people because they're like, we're going to do this. We're going to do 500 houses this year. And they go, how? Show me how. Like logically show me on a piece of paper month by month how we're going to get to those numbers. And they go, I don't know. We'll figure it out when we get there. Then that's not a vision.
Yeah.
You know, any fool can sit down and like write down aspirations. Don't call yourself a visionary.
Yeah.
Call yourself a fool. Right? And a visionary will show you the path of how to get to that result.
That's like one of my things right now is like, I'm like, okay, because all of our profits made it into this deal, right?
Yeah.
So when the sellers paid off, it's a creative deal. When the sellers paid off, that's where our profit comes in. So I'm like, hey guys, when we get to that step, we can make all this other stuff happen.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But until we get to that step, like spending money is dangerous.
Yeah. Well, you don't have it yet.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just banking on that to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
You're borrowing.
And it'll happen. Like I'm fully convinced it'll happen. It's just when.
Yeah. And how?
You know, and how. So
the when and how.
Yep.
I mean, it's just like the process, procedures, and policy. It's like, this is what we're going to do. Okay, that's fine.
Yep.
But you just tell people what to do. You don't tell them how and the when. Now we're going to live in dangerous territory. And so whether it's process or it's vision, you still have to have all three.
But I feel like right now is a good time for me to be building out, like you said, the process and the how and the when. Because we know when the when's going to happen.
Yeah.
But if we don't have the how and the process,
no.
Well, then we're just waiting on this point. So right now is a great time.
Yeah.
We don't know if it's going to be in 2 months or it's going to be in 6 months or it's going to be next year.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But if we can work on that, then we can explode when we hit the win and we can implement.
Right.
Going forward. And that's kind of what I'm working on.
That's
and
good.
I have been working on.
That's awesome. Good. Excellent. Well, thanks for reading my book.
Yeah. No, thanks for writing it, bro.
It's been.
Let me ask you a question.
Took me 20 years.
Would you say that it's better to read your book or hire you?
I don't know. I mean, I think people are at different stages of business. So I think when you're getting started and stuff and you have a lot of fear, I think it's better to read the book. Mm-hmm. Fear overcomes, knowledge helps us overcome fear. And so I think it's important when somebody's fearful of something that they should get knowledge.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's the right time to hire us when you have too much fear. You talk about, now you're going to be like, worried about telling you way my brain works, right? So like there's 4 things that stop us from growing. in scaling. Number one's fear. Number two is mindset. Number three is connections. And last, assistance and processes. When you're hiring me to help you implement, not give you information. So people are sometimes not ready and prepared to implement, right? So if you're not ready for that, then don't waste some money on a coach. If you're not ready to play the game, then you don't need a coach.
Yep.
Go to your backyard, shoot the ball.
Yep.
Right? Watch some YouTube videos on how to shoot. Right? But when you want to get in the game and actually score, and it matters, you're gonna need a coach on your sideline.
Yep.
Right? And that's the biggest difference, I think, when if people are making determinations. Should I hire someone like Gary? Or maybe I'm not your cup of tea either, but hire someone like Gary, or should I read his book? And it's like, well, where are you at mentally?
Yep.
Right? Are we in fear still? Because you are, then you need to get knowledge.
I mean, just from the aspect of answering that question, highly respect that. Okay. Like, because a lot of people will say, "Oh no, just hire me," I don't want to do that. Even though they're not there. And I think just you saying that right now, when the right person is there, because you don't want to coach unsuccessful people anyways.
No, I don't. I don't get paid.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know this or not, but we don't charge in full till the end of our 90 days.
Wow.
So like if I let you in the door and we fail, I don't get paid.
Wow.
So like I don't want to let you in the door.
Yeah.
Our purpose is to do a good work that supports God's work.
Yep.
And I very much value the good work side of that. If I don't do a good work, I don't want to be paid.
Yep.
Because I don't want to be giving money to God's work that I feel like stole. That's not healthy for me. And honestly, that's what gives God a bad name.
Yep.
Is when people take, and they take, and they're like, but we're giving it to God. We're giving it to God. No. You didn't have the right to take it yet.
Yep.
Right? And that's where the good work comes in. Joshua chapter 1:8 talks about good success. The only time success is ever mentioned in the Bible is just have good success. It goes on to talk about what good success is. And part of that is like having integrity, right? And doing what you say you're going to do. So I won't charge. We have power days, and at the end of we ask for a deposit because I used to not, and then people will cancel on us at the last minute and things like that. So now it's like we ask for a deposit to make sure we have commitment from the person.
Yep.
But we don't charge in full till the end of those 90 days.
Wow.
And honestly, if somebody truly came to me at the end of 9 days and like, this was trash, I'd give them back their deposit too.
Yeah.
Right? We have another program. It's called Full Circle. And in that program, it's a monthly fee. We actually factor in the cost of the first 90 days and we wrap it all in. And somebody wants to stay with us a full year, right? And they want to go the full circle with us. Then it's a monthly fee, but we don't sign a contract. We don't require people to be locked into it. Yep. So after the first month, if it didn't bring value, we'll refund the money and we're done. And I lose 10 grand.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the risk to me, by the way, because I've already paid the coaches. I've already done all that. And my team this year had a really hard time with me when we created this product of saying, now, how is that going to work with your philosophy, Gary? And I'm like, will you refund the money? And they're like, we would lose $10,000. I'm like, well, then you guys better make sure we deliver a good work. And they were like, okay.
Yeah. So I think, I think those types of people anyways, you don't want around either.
And I'll tell you, I've been in, 8 years, I had to refund 3 people.
Wow. How many clients have you had?
Over 4,000.
Wow.
And the 3 bother me. They bother me. I still think about the 3.
Yeah. It's not about the money. It's at that point, it's like, why didn't I deliver?
Why did we even let them in? One guy was just downright unethical, and that's okay. We're going to have that.
Yeah.
I know as we get bigger, we're going to have that more and more.
Yeah. There's always snakes in the grass.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, he swore up and down that we're going to do sales training. We don't do sales training. Like nothing. Not that I ever talk about sales training.
Yep.
I signed an agreement. Nothing in the agreement said that we were going to do sales training. The video was recorded when we onboarded him. Nothing in there said we were going to do sales training.
Yep.
But he's like, but that's what I heard. Okay, well, that's not what you were told. So you know what I did? I hired Steve Trang to do a sales training. You know what I did? I refunded his money. And I called him. I said, don't ever call me again.
Wow. That's a good way. You still executed on it.
Well, I mean, if he accused me of saying we did, then we're going to deliver what we said we were going to do.
Yeah.
But I ain't ever going to work with him again.
Interesting.
Never again.
What about the other 2?
The other 2 was somebody we went down to this Florida. My son was with me, and we were sitting at a table like this. And my son snaps a picture, and there were some other things that happened that was like red flag as soon as I walked in. But it was all right. I was going to push through it. he sends me a picture. I look down at my phone and I'm like, what's this? He's like, points at the guy's leg, and the guy had a rust bracelet. And he's like, hey, are you wearing a rust bracelet? He's like, yeah, I am, but that's none of your business. I'm like, no, it actually is my business. You just asked me to yoke up with you and coach you. And I'm not going to coach somebody I don't believe in. So my number one core value is belief.
Yep.
And he goes, well, I don't understand why this is relevant. Well, it all depends on why you have a rust bracelet. I said, so if you're not willing to tell me, we're going to call this done right now. He goes, and I said, and based on what you tell me, we still might call it done. So he said, well, I got arrested for auction tampering. Okay, yeah, we're done.
Yep.
Like, bro, you should have told us before we came down here.
Yep.
He just really pissed at me. I'm like, I don't really care. Like, I'm refunding every dime you have.
Yep.
And we're walking away. We played on jet skis for the next couple of days. Hey, but here's the thing.
You lost twice.
Yeah. I mean, I did. Yeah, I did. And then I hit my head, got a concussion on the jet ski. I lost 3 times on that trip. But you know, those were the 2 that I felt were out of our control. And then we had one that I just didn't feel we did a good job. It was an interesting, and we didn't actually refund the money on this guy. I still consider it one of the 3 though, because he asked for the refund. He asked for a refund or something else. And so my dad died. It was a week my dad died. I was supposed to be the client. I was supposed to be the person that gone and worked for this guy. Yep. And I couldn't go. You know, I was not in the right mindset. I didn't work for 90 days. I have a freedom. Let's talk about my Tuesday afternoon nap. Like when I don't want to work anymore, I just say I'm not working, you know? And so I have 17 other coaches and I'm just like, I'm not going. And so one of my other coaches went. And he's like, I was just disappointed. I mean, I thought I was getting you.
Yep.
I said, get it. I totally get it. He's like, and I just don't know that what I got was the same level of what you would have given me. You know, it's not like you paid more for me or anything. We don't charge different for me versus others. I think we're starting to, but we hadn't in the past. Anyway, all that to say is I said to him, I'm like, well, you know, if you want a refund, I'll give you a refund. He goes, well, either that or you come out and give me 1 day with you. Here's what I'll do. I'm going to give you 2 days with you, and I'm going to let you stay in our program for the next 6 months for free. And he was like, I'm not asking for that. Just asking for 1 day with you. I said, but either I'm refunding you the money or you're going to take this whole package. And he was like, okay, that's your dollar, not mine. So, okay. I went out. When I went out, he said, I don't want the rest of the time. As a matter of fact, I'm willing to actually give you more money because the value I got today, dude, it's going to make me so much money. And I said, but that's not what we agreed to. What we agreed to was that you're going to stay in this program for 6 more months for free.
Yep.
And I was going to give you 2 days. And he was like, okay. And honestly, we kept working with him for a while. He's a great guy. And honestly, that was the one of the 3 that I valued so much. Mm-hmm. Because he allowed us to see areas that we needed to improve in. And what I concerns me sometimes, I think, Evan, when we get bigger, is that especially when you become a brand and people get respect for you, and I'm very appreciative, I'm very humbled by it, honestly I am. I don't take it for granted. Is I get worried sometimes when we let somebody down or we don't do what we said or we don't fulfill it at the level that they're like, well, it's scary, I don't want to offend him, or I don't want to upset him, or I don't want him mad at me, or whatever. No, I'd rather know. Yeah. Because my purpose is to do a good work.
Yep.
And if I wanted to make more money, I'd just go do more real estate. That's the truth of it, right? Like you're in Northwest Indiana. We bought and sold over 300 houses a year here with my brother-in-law. He still does it right down the street. Just called me yesterday. He had 16 houses for me. And I mean, that money's available still. But that's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I found a need years ago at Collective Genius. I was in the mastermind and found people being entrepreneurs and not business owners. And I felt like I had a responsibility that God gave me a talent, gave me knowledge and experience to be able to pour back into entrepreneurs. And I was failing my own purpose by not doing it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people in this industry that pivot and get out of real estate because they're like, they want to get into coaching and they feel like it's easier and all that. If you're going after it for that reason, then don't do it.
Yeah. If you're chasing easy, it's not the right path.
Yeah. Because I'm really, really tired of cleaning up after other people right now.
Yep.
I go into way too many offices right now where they've hired a coach. I've hired somebody that was successful in the biggest boom in real estate in the last 5 years. And they're like, well, I was successful. I'll teach you how to be. And I'm like, you know what? I'm really tired of cleaning up after those guys right now. So like, if you're going to get into this just to make money, you're going to get into this just because it's easier, just because you want the lifestyle, please stay out of it. Just stay out of it. Allow somebody else that's going to do this based on the fact that they actually want to help people.
Yep.
You know, I got 3 calls tomorrow, and one of the guys I'm calling tomorrow, he's like, bro, I don't have the money to hire you. I didn't ask you to hire me. He's like, you're going to take 2 hours with me? I'm absolutely going to take 2 hours with you. He said, why? I said, because God put me in front of you. He said, why don't you do that with everybody? God didn't put me in front of everybody else.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
Like, God put me in front of you. His name was Jacob. Me and Jacob's going to sit down tomorrow. We're going to spend a couple hours together. I'm going to figure out why he's struggling. We're going to fix why he's struggling. He wants to hire us in the future. Great.
Yeah.
He does it.
Doing the right thing's always
He'll
the right
probably
thing.
tell 10 people, though.
Yep.
You know, some of your best marketing is just do what you say you're going to do.
Yep.
And if you do that, you'll deliver value. When you deliver value, 10 people.
Well, you take that to the next step though, because you do what you say you're going to do, plus you refund them their money. Like that's like the crazy thing that I'm hearing from you is like, yeah, we're gonna still do it, you know, with those failed clients, but we're also gonna refund your money. Like there is no way you're gonna be able to turn around and say we didn't give you what you paid for, nor can you say that we charged you for it.
Right.
Like,
well, that's the thing. For them to say we didn't give them what they paid for, say you surveyed our last 4,000 clients. Then my next question would be to them, then why'd you pay us? Because the agreement was you don't pay me till the end.
Yeah.
And you only pay me if you say we delivered the value you expected. Does that make sense?
Yep.
That's how I protect this. Now, do I go to every single client and have them surveyed and say, did we deliver everything? No, maybe we could. But at my area of measurement is don't pay me. And I make it very clear. Don't pay me if we didn't deliver value. Right? And so, you know, we're at a big enough size now where people are like, you know, it's automated. But we make it very clear the whole process, don't pay us if we didn't deliver value. And I think that's the way we protect against being that title of a guru, right? Like, I don't want to be called a guru.
Yeah.
I hate it, actually.
Just like me and millennial.
I don't like the goat terminology either. I hate when people call people goats. You know, I'm not an animal.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, I'm a very basic guy that likes to get up in the morning, put my pants on, and walk outside. You know, I live I live nice. I don't have anything bad. I have nice stuff, but you don't ever see it on social. You know, I was telling Adam when you got here earlier, like, you know, my CO wrecked my car. You know, and it's like, it is what it is. You know, I don't really care. It's just a car.
Yeah.
Do you know what kind of car I have?
I don't.
Yeah, because you never see it on social.
Yep.
Do you know how big my house is? Nah, you'll never see it on social. You know why? Because I don't care about that stuff.
Yeah.
And here's probably the biggest reason. You know, 2008 came along and it jumped up like a snake and bit me in the leg. I bit a lot of entrepreneurs in the leg, but I lost everything from 2008 to 2011. Lost everything in my health. Got Lyme's disease, went back to a 5-year-old mental state, lost all my rentals, lost my property management company, filed bankruptcy. It was a crappy year. But it taught me a lesson, man. It's like, you know what? People hold on to stuff way too hard. You know, I'm just grateful for what I have. Like, you stop being grateful for what you have and you start stressing over what you could lose, well, your happiness just goes away. And so I was in that moment, man. I was in that moment of losing it, seeing it all shrink and go away and thinking to myself, oh, gosh, I got to hold on to this. And it was miserable. And I remember coming out of that going, I could care less if I ever gain it back or whatever. And if I do gain it back, who cares if I lose it again?
Yep.
Because the truth is, if I built it twice, I could build it again.
Yep.
And so now I find myself, here's the thing, I actually found myself 2 weeks ago. I was in Vegas at Ryan's event. It's where we were. It's like that Thursday before. And I remember having my leadership team there. And that morning I woke up with a lot of anxiety. I'm not even sure why, but we had a little bit of snafu in our CRM and our system, and found out that through my C-level group that, you know, a lot of leads were coming in and not being followed up on, and it affected some sales and things like that. And I started having a little anxiety of like, man, do I need to jump in? Do I need to do this? What if we lose this? What if we, you know, like, man, that moment, that even at my level and where I've been and how many businesses I've created, you still get that, like, do I save the day? Do I jump in and do this? And then I just, like, sitting there, I was talking to my leadership team, and Brandon McCurdy looks at me, he goes, what does it matter? Like, what if this whole thing falls apart tomorrow? And he took it to an extreme for me because I needed him to. He said, what does it matter if it's all gone tomorrow? So we'll just build something else. I'm like, yeah.
It'd be fun too.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, yeah. I'm like, yeah.
It'll suck, but it'll be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know at this point if it would suck.
Yeah.
It might just be fun to do. It might be inspiring to do.
Yep.
I think, it's funny because when we lose a business, it fails. Boy, we beat ourselves up. I mean, guys will go through depression and like even become suicidal and things like that. But then they sell the business and they're excited. Like, I succeeded. But you're still back at zero. So does it really matter?
Yeah.
It's an ego thing.
I want to challenge you on something.
Okay, give it to me.
So you said that you don't share your cars, your house, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm not judging people that do. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. I think from what you believe in is most important, right? So if you don't want to do that, that's fine too. But I think there's a level of authority you get when you do, right? And there's a level of building your brand. And maybe it's not the brand that you want to build, and that's completely fine. But with the belief you have, and I think that's really intertwined into you, is there never a point where you will be able to say, you know what, I know who I am, I need to grow, or we want to grow bigger. If I simply show what I have, it gives me authority to, and the growth with that authority to grow larger. So is that ever a point where you think, well, maybe I'll show a little bit more to have that more authority?
No. Bible says, let another man praise thee, not thyself. So, like, if you want to come to my house and record my cars and stuff and put it on social, you could. I'm not going to do it. I don't feel like that's right for me.
Okay.
What if the man gaineth the whole world but lose his own soul? I don't need that. I don't need all that gain if I lose my beliefs and my standards and who I am. And so I want to protect that at all costs. I'm not going to put it out there for people because it's not who I am.
Yeah. Are you more fearful that you would lose it?
No. No, actually, fear doesn't play a very big role in my life. I'm not fearful of losing it at all. I'm fearful of not being true to who I am.
Well, I mean, lose it from a personal stance, right? Like,
no, I just want to stay true to who I am. Okay. Like, I want to protect the boundaries that I've put in my life and the principles that I've put in my life. And I don't actually, when I see it, I don't think negative of people that do it.
Yeah.
Just the verse that always comes to my mind is let another man praise thee. I always say that if you want to measure success of a company and a customer, a product and a culture, let's look at it that way. If you want to measure the success of a culture, then you can measure it based on how many employees create new employees. If you want to measure success of a business, you can measure it by how many customers create new customers. And so 98% of our clients come from referral, and they're the right people then when they come.
Yep.
I don't have a product, and I think this might be helpful regarding your challenge. I don't have a product that's one to millions.
Gotcha.
Right?
So you don't need the millions to buy it. Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't mean I
think
won't
your book,
highlight.
I think your book in a way could be one to millions though.
It could be.
I know you don't like have that's not your goal to sell books, right?
Yeah.
But that book could help people.
It could.
Right.
And so the marketing platform we're on ABC News. I speak at MIT University next month, Columbia University. I'm on a TED Talk in 90 days. Patrick Lencioni had us come out. Like, we'll get out and create awareness. We were in Times Square on the NASDAQ board for 24 hours. Book hit bestseller. And we've done very little to promote it, to be honest with you. Like, people have asked us to be on these platforms. And we've sold over 1,000 copies in the last 90 days. So, yeah, I mean, I think if you create something of value, it finds its way in this world. I think the people that push it out there and say, look at me, look at my success, I find a lot of times they're shooting stars. They go up quickly and they come down just as hard.
Yep.
I do see Grant Cardone and other guys like that'll highlight their success. And so, who knows? But I think at the end of the day, for me, it's not something that is core to who I am. I'd rather highlight your success, know?
Well, I just asked the question because my father is one of the guys that's like, why are you posting about that?
Yeah.
And to him, like, here, so he's like very, very, like, don't ever look him up and contact him. He'll blame me for it. Like, he'd be like, don't take pictures of my tractors. I don't want people to see that, He's like, I got a lot to lose if people come my way,
Yeah.
We actually created an Instagram for him And I won't share it just because he wouldn't like me to share it, but we created an Instagram for him and we started posting pictures and videos of like the farm.
Yeah.
And within 1 month, we had 2 million views.
Yeah, that's great.
And he's like, shut it down.
Oh, no.
He's like, I do not want the attention.
Wow.
Like, you know, I don't want people seeing our stuff. Like, I want my friends to see my stuff. Like, because, you know, we have relationships and it might be a little easier if they know what we're doing, you know, but I don't want masses seeing it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why I asked that question of like, you know, what it is. And I think I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. Like, I don't share how much money we're making on a deal. Like, I don't post the bank account transaction as it comes across. Like,
you're not flipping money.
Like, and there's times where I'm like, oh man, that'd be really like a really good play to some people are like, oh, Evan's a nobody. And it's like, oh yeah, I want to see these bank account transactions, you know, but I don't.
$1.5 million.
Yeah. But
that's funny.
But at the same time, like I kind of play in like a little every area, like what do I share and what don't I share? You know, because I also don't want to come across as I'm materialistic.
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, there is a little bit of some more success. There is a little more growth potential when you do share some of that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, but it's how you share it too, right? Like, I mean, you just asked me about it. People are going to hear now.
Yep.
I mean, if you ask me what size house I have, I'd tell you.
Yeah.
If you ask me what kind of car I have, I'd tell you. I'm just not going to go out there and put it out there.
So what kind of car do you have?
I have a Lexus LC 500.
I don't even know what that is, but I believe it's a nice car.
Very rare car. It's about a $140,000 car. I mean, it's a nice car. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
You'll see it on social. I'm not trying to be boastful in it.
Yep.
Right? Doesn't mean I don't have it. It's just not trying to be boastful in it. And so, like, it's not that I wouldn't share it. It's just how I share it. Again, let another man praise thee. If you're asking me, that's not me being boastful for what I have, right? If you got on here, it's like, hey, Gary Harper, he's helped this amount of people and he's done this and he's helped this guy succeed and this guy succeed. You know, I'll give my credentials. I've worked with 4,000 people. I don't know if I've helped all 4,000 people, right? I think we have. I've helped certain people scale. And the reason I say that is because they've said it. You know, Ryan has a podcast. He has a YouTube channel. On his YouTube channel, he has a YouTube. If you go look it up, it says Meet the Man Who Made Me a Millionaire. And it's an interview of me and him. And he talked to me and interviewed me on that about how I helped him. And that's one thing I love about Ryan, right? Like Ryan gives credit to people who have helped him get to where he is. He's very humble. People don't think he's humble. And I know him very close. And he's confident, extremely confident.
Yep.
But I call it humble confidence. You know, when I would describe Ryan, I say, you know, humble is not thinking less of yourself. It's just thinking of yourself less. He's humble.
Yeah,
You say he's not. He's crazy. He is very humble. He puts other people before him all the time.
Yep.
But if you're like, bro, let's challenge you to a golf outing or, you know, a baseball game.
He's like, you're going to lose.
Or like, I'm going to crush you in business. He's like, no, I'm going to destroy you.
Yeah.
Because he's confident, but humble.
Yep.
Right. So I think those are important ingredients to come together. I like the challenge though. I do. I like that you asked me that because it makes me think, you know, should you and when should you and how should you? And I do think it's important to share success.
Yeah.
I just think it's how.
Well, and I think just starting to read your book, like I haven't been all the way through it, but the first 30 pages is making me think already. Right. So even if it's not for profit, maybe it's just getting the book out there.
Yeah, we absolutely got to do a better job getting the book out there.
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't know you had a book until I started researching you a little bit more because like typically what I do for podcasts is I'll get in and research a person like the night before because I want it to be fresh in my mind.
Yeah, good.
Right?
Yeah.
And like yesterday I had Blaine and Lily Kosak on.
Yeah.
And I felt like the podcast, great people, like love them. Like
I don't know them, so I was asking.
Yeah, and I was kind of shooting from like the hip on it, you know, a little bit, and there wasn't a whole lot to research. I tried like digging in, researching a little bit, but I felt like after the podcast was over, it was like I like the conversation. Yeah. Right. Like I like conversating, but is there any value that came from it? I mean, maybe, I think there is some. Yeah. But there was like kind of gaps in between. I didn't know what to ask next, and I'm like, I need to do a better job researching. Sure. And because they have value to share, I just didn't pull it out of them. Yeah, you know, I got to ask the right questions. Sure. You know, and not even so much as interview style, but like if I want this to succeed in any fashion to the point where I can keep doing it, and that's the one thing. It's like this is just learning for me. Like I told you before, But it also, like, it costs a lot of money. Like you said, the time to travel here and the equipment. Like,
It's expensive.
my videographers, they were like, hey, we should get a couple, like, things to make this look nice, look more professional. I'm like, what are you thinking? And they're like, well, we got like $10,000 in like requests, like for equipment. And I was like,
Not
done,
cheap.
buy it. And they were like, wait, hold on a second. You just bought all that equipment? And I'm like, well, yeah, because if I'm going to spend the flights, you know, getting here, $1,000, the hotel rooms, $200.
Yeah.
I said, but what's crazy about it, what most people don't factor in, I said, my time, and this might sound crazy, but I really believe this. My time's worth $1,000 an hour.
Easy.
Like,
Easy.
as a solopreneur that's making the kind of money I am doing, if I'm going to sit, you know, down and not do my business, it's $1,000 an hour.
Yeah, I actually challenge that though, because I think it's your time is worth where you're going to be, not where you're at. Right? Because you are not where you are right now. You're where you're going to be.
Yep.
And when you're not focused on where you're going to be, you're robbing from that. So your time's actually probably worth about $1 million an hour.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about $1 million.
I mean, depending on where you want to be in 5 years from now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because if you're not doing activities right now that gets you there,
Yep. You're robbing from your future.
you're robbing from that. You know, I always tell people, is your future self giving you a high five or the middle finger? Like, which one are they looking at you with right now? Right?
Yeah.
So you got to be careful what you're spending your time doing, thinking that it's 1,000. Because it might be more. It might be a lot more.
Yeah.
Because of where you might be in 5 years from now. So time is a very important ingredient.
Before I went on tour, I was like, how much is this going to cost me?
Yeah.
And I was like, should I be in this for like 100,000?
Yeah. Easy.
You know, like
Quick.
10 podcasts,
Quick.
you know, quick.
It's gone.
Like, it's gone. Yeah. And then I had people question me. I was like, is this really worth your time? And like, I love those people for questioning me. I actually call my parents because they're negative Nancy's about everything. But it makes me realize it's like, what's the end of the widget?
Yeah, it's tenacity.
Tenacity. Yeah, the tenacity in the situation.
You need it to make the decision.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it's going to button it up. Make sure you question. Make sure you have the right details in place. You're not just winging it. Because if you do, and I think you do, you probably live in wonder, invention, and probably a little discernment. I hear a little discernment coming in with you.
Yep.
Then you're in the front side of the decisions, right?
Yep.
You need those backside people to make sure that you're getting good results from the whole thing. So this podcast or the station here that we created here, I mean, it's not cheap. I think we've got $160,000 into this.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, that's not to mention Adam and his time and the ancillary stuff. We just bought a new switcher. You know, I think that was a couple $1,000s. So these things can add up really quick.
Yep.
So, but I'm proud of you for doing it, man. I think it's great that you're doing this.
On the regard of time, I know your time's super expensive, and I appreciate you giving me however long we've had already.
I don't even know. Yeah, 12 o'clock.
But thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it.
Hopefully we can stay in contact.
Absolutely.
I know you will. And appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Well, man, you got the book, but you also have my number, right?
Yep.
And there's never a price tag attached to a phone call.
Awesome.
Okay. So you give me a call anytime you need it, okay?
You should go buy the Rise book on Amazon. Now there's two.
Yeah, there is.
There's the
Purpose to Rise.
Purpose to Rise. Okay.
And then there's the Rise Business Framework. Those are the two. We actually have 3 on Amazon. There's Is Your Business Sick? The Purpose to Rise, which is a fable about a real estate entrepreneur who hires a business coach to help him rise to his purpose. And then the Rise Business Framework, which is basically a textbook. It's literally chronological order of how I would scale, grow a business from 0 to 1 all the way to 100.
Let me do something real quick. Just kind of off the top of my head. If you go out and buy Gary's book, buy 3, give 2 away. Send me a picture of that you're doing that, and I'll give you 20, 30 minutes of my time if you want it. Not that my time's super valuable, but if you have a question for me and you want to get some of my time.
Well, I'll match that, actually. If in the book, there's a QR code that allows you to take a business assessment.
Okay.
And you have that business assessment, I'll have Jacob, my son, reach out and do a business audit with you.
Cool.
If they buy the book, he'll do a business audit and tell them he's evaluated thousands of businesses. And he's helped me very, very much ever since he was 16 years old. So I'll have him do a business evaluation for anybody that buys a book, fills out that assessment.
Cool. So do that. Plus you get time with me.
Yeah.
Give 2 of those books away to somebody else that you think needs it. And, I think that's the best way to start making that chain reaction happen.
Great way to create impact.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate you, bud.
Thanks, Gary.
All right.